Hello, nerds, and welcome to the Engadget Podcast. This is episode 26, The Sounds of Science. I am your host, Terrence O'Brien. I am back again this week. It's been kind of a rough few weeks for me. I keep getting sick and disappearing from the face of the earth for a while, but I'm back. I'm feeling better. Kind of, sort of.
Good.
Joining me this week, managing editor Dana Wollman.
Hello. It's also been a rough few weeks for me. I am
Yes.
also somewhat better. I have this just in case.
Yeah, you've been in and out and sick and back and forth.
Stifling coughs all over the place, yeah.
Basically, the whole Engadget staff is dying.
Just don't go to CES.
Yeah, it's pretty much it. Also joining me this week is Nate Ingraham, who is not dying too
Not
high.
at the moment.
That's because you fell ill at CES.
I was sick for the first 2 weeks of the year, but I think that's all behind me now. And unless I get it from sitting here with you guys, which is a distinct possibility.
Entirely possible. This is also your first time back here in a while.
Last time I was here was the day after Trump's election, and now we're here the week after his inauguration. So it seems like I was draw the short straw on podcast duties. RIP all of our mentions today because it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, I mean, basically we only have you on to talk Trump.
That's not true.
I know nothing about technology, guys. It's all
no.
a farce.
And for those of you who want to know and maybe want to tune out,
Trigger warning.
We're going to be talking Trump later, Trump and science. So if you don't want to listen to it, there's plenty of other podcasts out there, but actually please stay around and listen. It's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah.
I prefer if you tell people to not tune out.
Yeah. Perhaps a bad move on my part. We love you all. We want you to listen. So, God, I feel a little rough, but we're going to jump right into it.
Let's get into it.
I'm a little shaky out of practice here. Let's start this show as we do most weeks with Flame Wars.
Yes.
This is where we debate the biggest topics and stories of the weeks. Once again, my brain is not working.
All the weeks.
All the weeks. As I usually warn everybody, this is purely an intellectual exercise.
Oh, yes.
Nobody actually believes the things they're saying necessarily on here.
I believe some of them.
Some of them. Everybody will get 20 seconds to make their opening statement, at which point I'll allow a brief rebuttal and then award a point to the winner. I need to get my timer set up because I failed to do that beforehand because I am the worst.
You can't count this off in your head?
No, I have my shoes on. It would be really difficult for me to count to 20.
All right.
So why don't we start
Let's start.
with Sprint and
Yay.
Tidal,
Oh, yeah.
a thing that I can see Dana is clearly very excited to talk about.
I mean, I'm going to win this one, but
Yeah.
Okay.
So for those of you who don't know, earlier this week, Sprint purchased a 30 or 33% stake
A
in
third, they said.
A
Yeah.
third, yeah.
stake in Tidal, which is the streaming music service owned by Jay-Z and a host of other artists that literally nobody cares about except for the fact that it got the timed exclusive rights to Life of Pablo when it came out. Otherwise...
I think Lemonade also. They got Lemonade first.
Oh, I think you are right about that. So really sort of big picture question here, though, is, what does Sprint have to gain by making this purchase? Is this a big mistake for Sprint in buying Tidal? Dana, you get to go first.
Not much to gain right now. Even if Sprint were to get some Tidal exclusives for its subscribers, this would not move the needle and push Sprint past its position as the fourth ranking carrier in the U.S. And I don't think Tidal would give its best exclusives just to Sprint if that is the size of Sprint's audience.
I have a hard time disagreeing with those statements. However, before I start, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Can you pull up what the purchase price was?
Sure. Let me see if we have that. I'm actually not entirely sure that's been announced, but
No?
let me
All right.
double check.
I think
According
it's
to
200.
According to sources, the deal is worth $200 million, but it's not been confirmed as of the last time we saw.
That's good enough, though.
Okay.
All right, now I am ready. Thank you.
Doing your research for you here
I
live
know,
on
it's
the
crazy.
air. All right. Your 20 seconds begins now, sir.
I think that for Sprint, it at least gives them something to offer their subscribers. Hopefully some discounts on it. Maybe that's not a bad thing if you're on Sprint. And I think that also it maybe isn't the smartest move, but at the price of $200 million, I think that's a relatively small drop in the bucket in terms of how much money Sprint is working with here. So they don't have a lot to lose. Maybe not a lot to gain, but not a lot to lose.
So Dana, my question to you is, seeing as how a lot of these services are we're seeing this condensing of the media market, and I keep banging the table with my watch. AT&T has DirecTV, and they're offering streaming. This is, a service on top of the actual data. Sprint doesn't have that equivalent. Does it not make sense for them to try and at least pick up something in the media sphere, even if it's this sort of third-tier music streaming service, as a way of offering their customers something beyond a nice data package?
I mean, perhaps, but even here, right, you could still be a Tidal subscriber and subscribe to a different network. Tidal, for its part, is looking for all the new subscribers.
They don't care what network they're on,
Right. I think, sort of to Nate's point, I think what Sprint could get out of this is a perception of hipness, perhaps. I mean, especially wrestling with T-Mobile as the third-ranking carrier in the U.S., T-Mobile's ads are attention-getting. Its CEO, John Legere, is attention-getting. They seem adversarial and rebellious and cool. This is all subjective, right?
That's certainly the image that they're going for.
Sprint is none of those things.
I might take issue with the cool part of that equation, but adversarial and rebellious for sure.
Well, and Sprint's best marketing tactic so far has been bringing back the Verizon guy. That's some pretty weak sauce. So I think having Tidal in their pocket is a lot better than, saying, hey, we've got the can you hear me now guy.
Right. I mean, right now, Sprint is last ranking. That's a fact we can't dispute. But I think it also falls on the stodgy end of the spectrum. Really no hipper than Verizon or AT&T.
Did Sprint lose all of their hipness and street cred with the death of Nextel and the Chirp? Was that kind of it?
I don't think they ever really had much to begin with.
Yeah.
Right? Sorry. Okay, Nextel, but there were separate brands when Nextel was cool.
Is it Sprint right now whose advertising campaigns basically amount to our network coverage is almost as good as Verizon's?
Yes, that is correct. We're 98% of Verizon.
We're 1% off Verizon or something. That's the best they can do right now in terms of advertising. So if a Tidal partnership, and I guess I'm arguing your side now, but not really.
I know we should have switched apparently because you're making some decent points.
No, I mean I stand by my other points, but if that's currently the best they can do in terms of reaching people and convincing people to join Sprint, saying our network is technically worse than Verizon's, but not that much worse. Maybe this gives them something else.
The thing I was just thinking too is it's gone. I can't even argue my own point. Just oh God, that's terrible. Oh, so with the new FCC commissioner, with net neutrality under fire, it's entirely possible that Sprint will start offering Tidal as it won't count against your data usage.
Well, but
that, as crappy as that is for net neutrality, I could see how some customers might appreciate it.
But carriers already can do that, at least on the wireless side. I mean, T-Mobile does that, right?
True.
But
they have to negotiate these deals with the various services, I'm sure. But
yeah.
All right. Well, how do you want to rule this one?
I mean, it goes to Dana. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I went into this knowing I was going to be down a point. Now I just got to step it up a little.
But I fought for you too.
You did well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was kind of works in Dana's favor, because regardless of which way I felt, Dana won.
Yeah. No, she had
made
all
the better
answers.
arguments for both sides.
And I was even trying to do research on the air. Didn't help.
So let's move on to our second story, which is Samsung. The Note 7 saga finally seems like it came to an end this past week.
I'd say so.
Hopefully so. I mean, God knows there might be a few of them still floating out there somewhere.
I think we're mostly
to explode.
done talking about the Note 7.
Yeah.
After this podcast.
After this podcast. Which, kind of brings me to the question here, which is, is Samsung's apology for the Note 7 debacle enough, and has it finally actually put this whole battery gate thing behind it? Nate, we are going to start with you.
I'm going to say that they did a good job of the apology, a good job explaining what happened. But the next time there is a phone, all everyone's going to do is write about how, maybe it's going to blow up. I think that it's going to really just be this talking point for people for at least another year, and that's going to just make it harder, I think, to convince people to buy it.
Dana?
I don't actually disagree with what Nate said about the fact that people will that Samsung has some work to do in restoring trust. But its apology this past week was at least thorough and humble.
Things that often cannot be said for Samsung. The humble part, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the humble part is something that can't be said of most companies,
True.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you give them any sort of credit for that, and do you think that that does anything for them with consumers? If you put that up against, say, Apple, when there was AntennaGate, Apple was anything but humble, did not apologize, and essentially blamed their customers for problems with their own phone.
The only thing I'll say is that we're talking about slightly decreased performance versus phones that are literally exploding. So I think Samsung had no choice but to be as direct and humble as possible in this situation. There was no room for any sort of spin or playing with how they presented that stuff.
What I
Which, to
appreciated
their credit,
most,
they did that.
Right, and I appreciated not just the explanation, and to recap the facts, their explanation included not one, but two different battery problems. There was one specific to the original batch of phones, and then a different problem entirely relating to the replacement phones that were supposedly
Because they rushed
safe.
it.
Yeah. And now it seems that they're reorganizing their operations somewhat to include a special team that does final crucial checks on these components. And on the one hand, you would have expected or hoped that companies had something in place like that to begin with,
Yep.
but they do now, at least.
So here's my question to you, Dana, which is, they have some sort of quality control. I mean, every company does, and it clearly failed multiple times, and multiple vendors failed in providing Samsung with these parts. Samsung, like most electronics companies, doesn't make everything that goes into their phones or their laptops themselves. Was this kind of enough to allay people's concerns, do you think? Is there going to be lingering issues with wondering whether or not their quality assurance is up to snuff, and wondering whether or not their new,
the Note 8.
The new component makers are going to be able to create batteries and whatever else safely, and all of these things?
I think it remains to be seen somewhat. It was interesting that a few days after this press conference, Samsung released its most recent quarterly earnings, and they actually looked pretty good. I think it was something like the biggest profit Samsung had seen in 3 years or something like that.
I knew it was good. I know it was that good.
But a lot of that money actually came from the sale of components to other companies, and this was going on. I'm sure these orders were placed maybe
way in advance.
Right. I mean, possibly before this whole Note 7 thing unfolded. So I think it remains to be seen both how Samsung's mobile division does and how even its own component division does.
I think we're going to see just how long of a memory do consumers have versus, the fact is the Galaxy S7 was probably the best phone Samsung's ever made. The Note 7 was looking like it could be until this happened. Will people remember?
I think one of the problems here, the battery life on the Note 7 was almost too good to be true, and
it was too good to be true.
It
in
was,
fact.
and that's what happens when you try something like squeezing a too big battery into too small of a casing. And if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Samsung erred next time on the side of safe. A phone that doesn't blow up, but maybe isn't groundbreaking or exciting.
Yeah.
That's most phones, though, right?
It's a lot of phones.
It is, in fact.
99% of phones are not groundbreaking or exciting, but
That's
all they want at this point.
also
for the
don't
most part.
explode.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, LG is rumored to be making its next phone less weird for totally different reasons besides
Because when they make
battery
weird phones,
phones,
nobody
No one buys
buys
them.
them.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm going to give this one to Nate. I think...
That was a pity vote right there.
No,
Feel
it's
it.
not. Here's what I'm going to say. Is
All right.
I think while I appreciate their apology, and I think they went further in their apology and their investigation than a lot of companies would, and I give Samsung a lot of credit for that, I think ultimately consumers' memory is a lot longer than this. I don't think going out apologizing is going to end this story.
It's such an easy thing for people to call back to. Oh, it's the phone that blows up.
Yeah.
There's no way. It's going to take a long time to erase that sort of tagline from people's memories. I
Yeah,
guess.
I think it's at this point it's very much a lot of wait and see, and so it's hard to say that it's finally kind of put this whole thing behind it, and just sort of like an anecdote to the side of that is somebody, coworker of my wife, was recently in the market for a new phone and was always an Android user and ended up buying an iPhone because, and this is an issue with all Android phones, is like a sort of an industry-wide problem, is she just associates all of them. They're all Droid phones to her. And so she thought that all Android phones exploded. And I'm wondering how widespread that is, because I do know that a lot of people just like all Android phones are Droid phones, quote unquote, in their heads. Like they're all the same.
Well, that is one way in which Engadget readers are different from the general public.
Yes. Good on you guys.
Yeah.
But like, also remember our readership makes up a very small portion of the population in the grand scheme of things. So I think we'll have to wait.
Dana
and see.
face.
Yep. Let's move on to our last story for Flame Wars. And this one is going to go back to probably something you guys haven't heard of in a while, and that's Google Voice.
Yeah.
Still a thing.
That is still a thing.
And you guys thought we were going to talk about Trump this whole time.
Yeah, we're giving you a full spectrum of nerdy topics.
Well, we're gonna start with this. So let's just go straight for it, and Dana, we'll start with you. You can answer this one first, which is, did Google let voice stagnate for way too long, and should it might as well be dead?
Oh, that's not the question I thought we were going to be answering today.
All right, hang on.
Whoa.
That is what it says here in the script is, has Google let voice stagnate for too long? Is the service as good as dead?
You are a sneaky blockhead, but okay, I'll answer the question.
Do you want me to go first?
Let's go with Nate first, because you're going to argue that it is in fact dead.
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
So I'm going to start your 20 seconds now. Tell me why Google Voice is dead. Dana, you start forming your rebuttal.
Google Voice is dead because Google's communications and messaging services are all so confused and intertangled at this point that I don't know how refreshing one that they haven't touched in 2 or 3 years is going to make anything any better. They've got Allo, they've got Hangouts, now Voice is back. It's such a mess that I don't see how Voice can stand out at all.
Dana, you now have to figure out a way to...
Yeah, so I can't answer the question of should it be dead, or I'm not answering that question, but it's clearly not dead. Google just invested all of this developer energy into updating the design language, but also is clearly explicitly promising new features like better voicemail transcription. It's actually pretty rare for companies to talk explicitly about what's on their product roadmap. So it's not dead, even if you think it should be.
I'll agree that it's not dead. I was surprised to see it come back to life here. But I think the problem is, what compelling reason does someone who's never used Google Voice before have to try it now? I'm sure that there are lots of people who use it and are happy to see it get updated. But at this point, I can't think. I mean, like, you can do messaging in it now, which is great, I suppose. You've always been able to send text messages, but they added photo capabilities. They're trying to make it compatible with the next generation SMS, et cetera, et cetera. But like, why would I use that over Hangouts or over Allo or over Duo or just making a phone call? Like, it's just, they need to simplify their products there and make it clear what the
What's
value
the
proposition
support
is.
of these products across Chromebooks, which I know you love?
Ooh.
So Skype doesn't really work well still on
Yeah,
Chromebooks.
no. So you can do calls through Hangouts on Chromebooks, and I'm pretty sure if you go to the Google Voice homepage, you can also make calls like just through the browser, regardless of what platform it's on.
So even then, on a Chromebook, voice
that
wouldn't
I'm
be
not
your...
actually sure of. I'm going to look at that right now while we continue talking. I believe you can make what amount to Google Voice calls
On voice
from Hangouts, but I don't know that you can actually make them from the...
If you go to voice.google.com.
That's what I'm looking at right now.
Looks like you've got the updated UI. Do you
I
use
do.
Google Voice?
I do.
Oh, all right.
I am an avid Google Voice user and have been since it was called Grand Central, so this is like a thing close, near and dear
Well,
to
I'd
my
love to
heart.
hear your take on this then as well.
It does not look like you can make calls, by the way, from the web.
That is...
You can
what
send a
happens when you click the phone icon there?
You can send a text message,
Yep.
but the phone icon is just sending messages. It's just like a list of incoming and outgoing calls.
You see,
Right now, what you're doing is you're arguing my side because this makes no sense.
I have a bigger complaint there. That's a missed opportunity for both the Google Voice team and the Skype team, which I think has been very slow.
Yeah.
On that count.
I mean,
You're right. I think you're right about you can do it through Hangouts.
yeah, you can definitely
Dial
do
a
it through
number
Hangouts.
there, right? Yeah.
So, Dana, you were saying that they've put all of this developer effort into it. My question kind of there is, how much effort are they actually putting into it? I mean, because doing the UI overhaul, honestly, isn't necessarily that big of an investment in time and effort. A lot of this stuff
It's worthwhile for sure.
it's worthwhile, but a lot of this stuff is like pre-built because it's, Google has a set of like UI building
Themes.
tools and themes and all that stuff. Like a lot of the stuff is like just pre-designed buttons that they're throwing into a place in a interface that honestly isn't that different from the one they had before. It just has the new icons. And the better voicemail transcription stuff isn't necessarily voice specific. It's just like Google's voice recognition technology has gotten better, and plugging that into their voicemail thing seems kind of like a no-brainer.
It was them going on record about the upcoming features that
Kind of did it for you.
that did it for me.
Yeah, they did say that this was not just like the one-time facelift. Like we should see other things happening with voice this year, which
And
again,
I say that
surprising.
even from my experience at Engadget. Engadget itself has a team of developers who are creating things to benefit you guys, the viewers and readers and listeners, but would probably not go on record talking about what they have coming unless they were
Really, truly invested.
there were
in.
zero chance they'd flake on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That said, Google does have a bit of a history of trying stuff out, canceling it, trying again. They're a lot more publicly experimental than most companies, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. Often to their detriment, perhaps. I'm going to give this one to Dana.
Are you kidding me? That's because you love Google Voice.
It's because you're rusty. You should come on more
Super
frequently
rusty.
than every
Yeah.
three months.
Even when I was coming on more, I was getting spanked, so I don't know if that's going to help.
I do love Google Voice, though.
Can you tell me why you? I'd love to hear A, why you like it, and B, why you sided with Dana.
So why I like it is it's my work phone number. So I don't have like a desk phone at the office. I don't want to have to carry a second phone that's specifically for Engadget, and I don't want to hand out my personal cell phone number to people. So I have a work number, and I've had it for a long time besides for work, but I use it for Engadget, and I don't answer it. It is specifically basically just like a voicemail service for like PR people. It's also the number I give out when like I sign up for things, because it's easy to like block spam and stuff, so I don't have to worry about people calling me at all hours of the night like to sell me shit. The other thing is that it's because of that I feel safe giving that number out. So like I recently set up Signal so that we could do so that I could like accept like tips and stuff securely and leaks and whatever. Which, by the way, if anybody out there, and we'll talk about this more later, if anybody wants to send Engadget tips and leaks or specifically send that stuff to me, I'm on Signal. You can find my Google Voice number, which is associated with my Signal account, and you can send them to me securely. But that's like a thing. Like I have no issue putting my Google Voice number on my Twitter page, like because.
You can just shut it off if you don't want it.
Yeah, I have no issue with it.
All right, you're convincing me.
My world would be kind of ruined if Google Voice went down, because a lot of people have that number. And
I've had very little. I've never really minded handing out my personal number, to be honest. So I guess that's the difference. I just don't pick up calls that I don't recognize if I don't want to.
Here's the thing: is I've had like my home phone number. Like I still have like a landline, which is probably weird for people. For so long. That like so many companies have that number that I just straight up don't answer the phone anymore. I might as I only use it to like make conference calls for work. That's the only purpose it serves.
Nice.
But yeah. All
right.
Point goes to Dana. Let's move on.
Yay.
Let's move on.